Welcome to the Listen for Life podcast with Genevieve Richardson. Genevieve is a speech-language pathologist rehabilitating adults with communication challenges after a stroke or due to a neurological impairment. Get equipped with knowledge from experts in the field and professionals you need to know. We'll hear stories and experiences from others who are navigating life with aphasia. So, put your earphones in and take a walk outside. This isn't just a podcast. This is a community, a resource, and a support system. We're in this together. Do life.
Welcome to the Listen for Life Aphasia podcast. I'm Genevieve, and we are here to talk about self-care through the generations. This is a really interesting idea that just kind of came to me literally in the middle of the night. I work with a variety of clients in all different age groups, and I also work with a variety of care partners, whether they are spouses, adult children, adult grandchildren. So I also find that what I think, because I'm a Gen Xer, for those of you who know what that is, we'll go into those details, the years and such. Welcome to the Listen for Life Aphasia podcast. It's Thanksgiving. Wow, can you believe it? It is the end of November, and we are quickly approaching the end of 2024. I don't know where the year has gone for you, but for me, it has gone by in a flash. So we are in the holidays. It's a beautiful time, but let's be honest, holidays can also be overwhelming. I remember one year trying to juggle family expectations, work deadlines, and caregiving all at once. And it hit me. I hadn't stopped to take a breath or even check in with myself. And that moment taught me something important, that self-care isn't optional, it's essential. If you're navigating life after a stroke, whether you're living with aphasia or supporting a loved one who is, the holidays can feel like a minefield of expectations, emotions, and to-do lists. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, I don't have time to take care of myself, or I can't even find the time to go get a glass of water, I don't even know where to start. This episode is for you. Today, we're diving into self-care, but not the one-size-fits-all kind. We're breaking it down by generation because boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z all think about self-care differently. And that's what makes this episode so interesting. So whether you are a spouse caring for your spouse and you're both boomers, or maybe you're in the Gen X generation, or you are an adult child of a person who's had aphasia and you are a millennial, you identify as millennial, or you identify as a Gen Z. We're going to dig into this. I think it's a really interesting thing because for me, I'm a Gen X. I was born in 70. And the reason I say that and the reason I call my own self out is this thought of self-care is a little cringy for me because I'm in the generation that came through, we didn't grow up in the digital age. We did it on our own, paper and pencil. When I was graduating high school, my best friend's family had the first PC of anybody in my friend group. And I used to go to their house and type up my term papers. And thankfully in high school, little side note here, thankfully I couldn't graduate high school without passing typing class. And thank goodness for it, right? Because what came next? Computers in many, many homes. I got my first computer my first semester of college in 1988. So I say this because I have a different perspective about technology. I have a different perspective about how I do things. I have a different perspective of when somebody says, I need to take a day for self-care, I look at them sideways like, I don't understand what this is. And maybe this is the same for you. So let's go through this. Let's do a quick breakdown of what do these generations mean, and then we're going to get into some of the details of it. And the reason I'm bringing it up this way, today is Thanksgiving. You're likely not listening to this episode today. But I'm hoping that you will catch this episode after Thanksgiving. And it's going to give you a way of thinking about how you relate with people, how different generations approach problems, how different generations approach caregiving and care partnering. So I hope this episode is going to give you some extra insights, but we're really going to focus in on self-care because at the holidays or at times of stress or in times of grief, we need to figure out how to do that for ourselves. And what does it mean? And if we can understand someone else's perspective based on how they came through life, what generation they were born in. They may not know they are somewhat hardwired with certain beliefs. So let's talk about boomers. Boomers were born 1946 to 1964. So boomers are known for their hardworking, duty first mindset. Gen X, woohoo, born 1965 to 1980. Gritty, independent, self-reliant. Latchkey kids, anyone? Millennials, born 1981 to 1996. Millennials are focused on mental health and setting boundaries. Gen Z, born 1997 to 2012. They are the digital natives, embracing quick resets, authenticity, and going to the internet and social media to get their answers. Most people will relate to one of these categories, and understanding these generational perspectives can help us find self-care strategies that truly resonate. But here's something important. Caregiving often crosses generational lines. A baby boomer or Gen X adult might be caring for a millennial child recovering from a stroke or other neurologic incident. A millennial or Gen Z adult might be caring for a Gen X parent. Recognizing these differences and beliefs and approaches to life can help us navigate caregiving with more empathy and understanding. So, what's the problem? So let's talk about why self-care is so important, especially during the holidays. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that this is our 5th episode about the holidays in the context of aphasia and being aphasia inclusive. So I'm super excited to bring you a different perspective about self-care at the holidays. For stroke survivors with aphasia, the holidays can be a tough time. Communication challenges might leave you feeling isolated because the conversation is moving too fast, or it's too noisy, or there's just too much activity going on. Or maybe you're self-isolating, you're staying away from people because it feels too overwhelming to keep up with conversations or explain your needs. For care partners, the pressure to do it all can feel like it's crushing you. And caregiving often crosses generations, which adds another layer of complexity. Maybe you're a Gen Z adult caring for a Gen X parent, or a baby boomer supporting a millennial child. These generational differences in how we approach life, including self-care, can create disconnects, misunderstandings. I've even seen hostilities and resentments. So it's an important thing that we understand where each other is coming from. So what is self-care exactly? How do you define self-care? Self-care isn't always about bubble baths or spa days, although it could be, unless that's your thing. It's about creating habits that protect, I think is a key word here, your physical, emotional, and mental health. It's taking small intentional steps to feel more balanced, less overwhelmed, less stress. But self care looks different depending on who you are. So let's break it down. Self care for boomers. Again, that is 1946 to 1964. Boomers are known as hardworking generation that values duty and sacrifice. For them, the idea of self-care might feel a little indulgent. They might be thinking, I don't have time for that, or I've got responsibilities. My to-do list is a mile long and I might as well get started. But self-care doesn't have to feel like a luxury. For you, it could feel like practical, purposeful activities that align with your values. A brisk walk to clear your mind, gardening to recharge, or even making time for coffee with a friend. Think of it as a way to keep yourself steady so you can keep showing up for your loved ones. If you're a stroke survivor with aphasia, self care might mean practicing a skill that makes you feel accomplished, whether that's doing a speech exercise or organizing your day that feels empowering, that it makes you feel like you're in control. Gen X, 1965 to 1980. We are the latchkey kids who grew up figuring things out on our own. We're about grit, independence, and just getting things done. I don't love the term self care. Like for the longest time, it just didn't resonate with me. So I had to figure out a way to frame it differently for myself where it felt comfortable, where it felt like it was meaningful, where it felt like I wasn't going to get eye rolls if I said I was going to grab a minute for myself. For you, Gen Xers, self care might be about efficiency, carving out time in the cracks of your day. It could be blasting your favorite music while driving. Yes, that's me. Taking a solo hike or driving or diving into a good book. It's less about pampering and more about finding something practical that recharges you quickly. So if you are a Gen Xer and you are living with aphasia, self-care could mean setting small, actionable goals for yourself, like managing one part of your day independently. It's about control, balance, and staying sharp. Doesn't that sound like a nice definition of self-care? Let's move on to millennials, 1981 to 1996. Millennials, you have normalized self care as part of your mental health, and that is a strength. But with caregiving, it's easy to let your own needs fall to the side while you manage everything else. For you, self care might mean setting boundaries, saying no to things that drain you, asking for help, or scheduling time for something restorative. You're also tech savvy. So apps can be a game changer, whether it's organizing tasks or finding mindfulness practices to keep you grounded. For stroke survivors, this can mean using digital tools to practice communication or finding ways to advocate for your needs in a family setting. You're already great at connecting. Just make sure to connect with yourself too. Gen Z, 1997 to 2012. Gen Z, you've grown up with self-care and mental health as part of everyday conversation. You know how to use tools and resources to help you feel seen and supported. For you, self-care might mean finding quick resets, like engaging with an online community, using an app to track your mood, or even just laughing at your favorite TikTok creator. You value authenticity, so lean into the things that feel real and restorative. If you're a stroke survivor and a Gen Zer, This might look like using an app to help with communication or staying connected through FaceTime or messaging tools. Self care for you is about staying plugged into the support you need. You may find a lot of support in online conversation groups like at Virtual Connections or the National Aphasia Associations, or even if your local area has an online or in person support group. Action steps are for everyone to improve our self care. We all do too much. We have too long a to do list. We think we're responsible for everything. And if we don't get it all done, we fail. And what that does is it just puts an extra burden, this underlying anxiety, stress that just never seems to go away. But no matter your generation, I'm going to give you 3 self care steps to try during the holidays. First one, and this is not even on the list, the first one I'm going to say is breathe. When you find yourself procrastinating, snapping at others, wanting to pull your hair out, yelling for no reason, or yelling at things or situations that are out of your control that normally you could roll with, that is the first step to realizing you need to figure out what self care is for you. So, now here's the first of the 3 things I want to share with you. Identify one thing you need right now. Whether it's a break to help with a task or time to yourself, start by asking yourself, what do you need most? One of my favorite things is to keep a book on my phone. I use the Kindle app on my phone. I have a Kindle, but I never use it because it's just one more thing to charge, right? But I love to keep a book on my phone. Today, I was at the grocery store and the line was particularly long. I was able to get through a half of a chapter while I slowly pushed my cart towards my turn at the checkout line. Ask for help. Now, this is a big one, and I will tease the idea that asking for help or understanding what kind of help you need or what kind of help is available to you, there's an art and a science to it. And in the new year, I will have a new book coming out. I think the title's going to be How to Help. I've renamed it at least 5 different times, but none of those names seem to stick in my head because I had one of my staff asking me about it this week. And I'm like, the How to Help workbook. And so I have a feeling that that's going to be the name of it. But the reason I bring this up is because that book breaks down the process, the mental and emotional processes of what you kind of have to go through, the self reflection, the steps to figuring out who are your resources, how can they help you, um, how do you ask for help? How do you clearly ask for help so that you get the help that you need at the time that you need it? Again, there's an art and a science to it, but that's going to be coming in the new year. And I'm really excited to be able to share that with you, my audience. But step number 2 in self care is asking for help. In the holidays, if you're hosting, and it's getting a little crazy. You know how you have well meaning friends and family come over and say, how can I help? Well, for me, when I'm hosting, I'm so busy caught up in the details of preparing the meal or doing this or doing that. I'm not always prepared with a good answer for that. But I encourage you, if you're hosting or you're traveling, whatever your holiday situation is, anticipate this question and think about how you can answer it. Is it if you're the spouse or care partner, could it mean that, hey, here's a deck of cards. Would you go sit down with Bob and play some rummy or go fish or, go do this or that? Be prepared. So it's not just about asking for help, it's being prepared when someone offers help What can they do to give you a hand? Create space for rest. Wow, this one is huge. So, for you, the care partner, hosting or traveling or whatever it is, can you build in some extra time to your schedule where you can just go sit down? If the weather is nice, can you go sit down outside and just look at the grass grow? Can you glance at the birds? Can you just breathe some air and let yourself decompress? If you are a stroke survivor with or without aphasia, please, please, please plan extra rest into your day. If you think it's going to take 30 minutes to get to where you're going for the holiday gathering, and when you get there, it's going to be time to sit down and eat, well, why don't you think about getting there earlier and packing some extra time in there? Talk with your host or hostess and find out if they've got a place that you can go sit when you need a breather. Let them know that you might have to excuse yourself at various times in the day just so you can go and recharge. That is an excellent way to advocate for yourself. Whether you are the person with aphasia or the stroke survivor or you're the care partner, time is everything. Create that space for rest. Use that time to recharge in whatever way feels best for you, but it will likely take a little planning ahead. So, what did you think about the perspective of the generations? Could you identify your generation in the years that I stated it, or the titles, boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z? Did any of those resonate for you? Did the ideas behind self-care for each of the generations resonate with you? Whether it did or not, I hope you will take something away from this episode, something that gives you encouragement to take care of yourself. Maybe it's just stepping away with a glass of water. Maybe it's sitting in a quiet place and having a one-on-one conversation versus trying to be part of a large conversation around a table full of people. Whatever it is for you, figure it out. Just spend 5 minutes thinking about that. Maybe wake up tomorrow morning, and while you're enjoying your morning beverage, think about what lights you up, what helps you recharge, what helps you with downtime. My kids love to talk about downtime. I need downtime. Their downtime looks very different than my downtime. What they do for downtime would stress me out more. And what I do for my downtime would make them, be bored to tears and fall asleep. But maybe falling asleep's not a bad thing. Whatever it is for you, the holidays are a time to not only be thankful and be grateful, but I encourage you to find a way to make it, give yourself some priority to figure out what does self-care look for you. So I want to help you make this holiday season a little bit easier. And I was hoping to get it out sooner than I did, but the book is out, Aphasia Inclusive Celebrations. Right now, I would love to give you the first chapter for free so you can start planning what a celebration feels like and what a celebration feels like being inclusive for your loved one who has aphasia. And this goes both ways. You who do have aphasia, you need to figure out how to make it inclusive for other people. So I'm going to give you something that might blow your mind here for a second. So let's take this from the perspective of I'm the person who has aphasia, and I'm going to be attending a holiday party. You realize you may not know everybody there at that holiday party. How do you go into that party with confidence, with strategy, that if your words don't come out the way you want, if you get lost in the conversation, if there's too many people talking at once, what do you do? What are your strategies that you can be prepared with ahead of time so that when you go in, you know what you can say? Maybe you keep a piece of paper in your pocket folded up with some strategies on it to remind yourself of what you had planned to do. There is no shame in having notes on your person where you can pull them out and look at them. So maybe me going in and I have trouble finding my words, and I already know that if I'm in a group of like 4 or more people, it's going to be too much for me. So maybe I go in prepared and I get pulled into this group and I might say, I have some trouble following conversation with it when it goes fast. If you don't mind, I'm just going to listen and smile and enjoy listening to you all talk. Or I could say, wow, that's a really great topic, Bob. Could we talk about that over here where it's more quiet? Or maybe you ask your conversation group to slow down just a bit, because sometimes, since I have aphasia, I know that I need just a little extra time to process what I'm hearing. I need just that extra second. If somebody slows down just a bit or pauses after a sentence, instead of going on and on and on, talking super, super fast, and where people are all talking over themselves. For the person with aphasia, that is really hard to follow. It's really easy to lose your train of thought. Their train of thought often gets derailed and never does get back on the tracks. So if I'm the person with aphasia and I know what kind of a situation I'm going in, I can be prepared with some ways to advocate for myself. Or not to avoid, because avoid, there's a negative connotation with it. Maybe you choose to go have more quiet conversations in the outskirts of a room. And it's not that you're avoiding the big conversations, you are making a choice instead to have a meaningful conversation that you can be more successful with on a one-to-one basis. Does that make sense? So this book, the Aphasia Inclusive Holidays and Celebrations book, breaks down all of these different strategies. It helps you rethink what what is meaningful about the holidays for you, and what is meaningful for your person who has aphasia. What could be adjusted to help them feel more included? I have some nice stories in the book from real life clients and different adjustments that they've made, different mindset shifts. And it's a real action book. And I'm going to tell you, just to be fully transparent with you, I really struggled with the idea of calling it a workbook. It's a workbook because there are prompts and areas that you can write in for self reflection, which is pretty cool. But workbook for me, just it doesn't have the right connotation. But I would rather call it an action book. And going forward, that's probably what I will refer to it as, because life is about action, isn't it? When you have aphasia or your loved one has aphasia, you can sit in the recliner chair and let the world go on by about you and without you. But what could you do to make that different? So, we are offering, as a Black Friday special, this episode comes out on Thanksgiving Day. We are offering for Black Friday, starting November 29th, Friday, through Cyber Monday, whatever that date is, you do the math. We are offering this workbook through our Etsy store. It'll be a digital download. You can put it on your iPad or you can print it out and work with it. We will offer it at 50% off the list price on Amazon. If you'd rather have a paperback, you are welcome to go purchase that on Amazon. If you look for aphasia and holidays, aphasia and spouse. If you Google, or not Google, but if you put my name into the Amazon search bar, or on Etsy, if you would like that discounted digital copy, you will find that book. And let me do this for you right now. I'm going to pop up here in this. Hopefully, I'm pointing to the correct corner. See this QR code up here? This QR code takes you directly to our Etsy store. The Etsy store is Life Aphasia Academy, and that book will be there for 50% off the Amazon cover price as a digital download as our gift for Black Friday through Cyber Monday. And I hope you will take advantage of this book, because this is the end of November. We still have more holidays to come in December. No matter how it is you celebrate, you're going to be in some kind of other gathering, holiday, or celebration situation. So I hope you'll scan this QR code. We will also put a link to the Etsy store as well as Amazon in the show notes for this episode. Okay, so that's it. What do you think? What does self-care look like for you at this holiday season? I challenge you to figure that out. My favorite way of figuring things out is writing it down. I go through here, I'm even going to show you. I go through notebook after notebook. I buy these nice thin little notebooks, and I have a stack of fun colored pens, and I write and I write and I write and I write until my brain is done. And what I find that does for me is it helps me process information. The holidays are an important time for connecting with family, friends, loved ones, neighbors, the trash guy, your mail carrier, whoever it is that's meaningful to you. And I encourage you to figure out the steps that you need to figure out to take care of yourself and make these holidays and celebrations more inclusive. On our next episode, we will reflect about Thanksgiving, and we're going to share more action strategies to help you keep building momentum, because December is here. December is around the corner, and we have many more celebrations ahead. I wish you an awfully wonderful and fabulous week. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Listen for Life podcast. We hope you feel empowered and supported. Head over to listenforlifepodcast.com to see the show notes with links and information from today's episode. Do you have a topic, a resource to share, or a guest recommendation? Inquiring minds want to know. Let us know in the comments section. Wishing you a fabulous week.